pork markets.
Today we're going to talk about some good games that do good things. Can you believe it? Oh my, yes. These are games in or around the so-called AAA space that do not behave like so-called AAA games. And in exhibiting distinctly non-AAA behaviour, they absolutely shame, humiliate and embarrass big budget, mainstream, so-called AAA games. Some of them do it by offering complete experiences, some of them do it with a wealth of content, some of them do it with cosmetics. Oh, and speaking of cosmetics... Oh, that's much better. That is much better. Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend wore a hat like me? Playing Borderlands 3 was something of a revelation, not because it's particularly remarkable or brilliant as a game, it's fine in general. It's more Borderlands with a few extra gimmicks tacked on, and that's totally acceptable. No, the revelation comes from how it rewards the player. Not with gambling mechanics, not with the chance to pay more money to earn more stuff. No, Borderlands 3 does something practically revolutionary in the modern AAA gaming space. It actually rewards you for playing it. For just playing it. Borderlands 3 constantly showers players with loot and riches to encourage them to play more. It is one of several games that have come out recently that downright embarrass the mainstream game industry by reminding us of what games used to be like, and what they could be again if most publishers weren't such grasping, money-hungry parasites. If you've played a Borderlands game, you know loot is a big part of the experience. There are thousands and thousands of guns with different rarity rankings, stat changes, and unique features. Basically, a dungeon crawling loot 'em up like Diablo, but guns instead of swords. You can already imagine how this makes it ripe for exploitation by unscrupulous publishers. Many of which have their own looter shooters, but really drab, repetitive, awful takes on the idea. Trash like Anthem or The Division, where you just get incrementally better pistols or assault rifles, really boring stuff. And anyone who wants a splash of colour or variety in their experience has to buy into the microtransactions. Despite Borderlands being published by one of the greediest corporate wank barons out there, Borderlands 3 has managed to remain a looter shooter without loot boxes. A game primed for live service bullshit, but none of the monetary trappings. More than that, however, Borderlands 3 mixes in cosmetic rewards, actual fucking cosmetics, with its loot drops. Yes, unlike most modern games where you can be expected to pay real money for a new hat or colour scheme, you can find skins for your characters and guns by just playing the damn game. And it feels awesome. Unlocking a new head style or skin is rare in Borderlands 3, but every time it happens it feels special, extra rewarding, because you got something unique and unexpected and cool among the usual avalanche of gun drops. Borderlands 3 is inherently more rewarding because, go figure, it features such a variety of rewards. Even though the game itself as a shooter is not all that remarkable, the sense of reward absolutely stands out. Unlike with most AAA video games, in Borderlands 3, I can take a character and make them look exactly like Scareglow, the evil ghost of Skeletor, which was a ghost that worked for Skeletor. It wasn't Skeletor's ghost. That was eventually cleared up, but look, here's Scareglow, the evil ghost of Skeletor. Compare Borderlands 3 to Overwatch, a game many would say is objectively a better game. But it's a game where your potential unlocks are found in a loot box system littered with disappointing items and duplicates that exist to try and frustrate the player. In Overwatch, you're drip-fed the occasional free loot box as a prize for leveling up, but so many of the loot box openings are deliberate letdowns, robbing you of your sense of reward in the hopes you'll spend money and chase the high you were denied. The high that you are entitled to as someone who just leveled up but didn't really get a reward for it. The free-to-play game Apex Legends does this as well. It drip feeds the occasional loot box, but over time it dishes out these rewards less and less, and the loot boxes are, like Overwatch, filled to the brim with crap. Many games do this, and it's something I've termed the unreward system. A devious scheme that does what video games are not supposed to do: disappoint the very people playing the game. These days, disappointment is a commodity, letting the player down, frustrating them, willfully cheating them out of a reward that they have earned by playing is all part and parcel of the manipulative microtransaction economy. Exasperate and frustrate the player, get them chasing their sense of achievement, their sense of, as EA calls it, pride and accomplishment. In Borderlands 3, you can just, get stuff as you play. Constantly and consistently. Even if a loot drop doesn't give you anything good, there'll be another loot drop literally around the corner, and the in-game currency, all of it actual in-game currency rather than premium Monopoly money, is given at such a rate that any item you want from in-game storefronts is pretty affordable and only requires more gameplay to achieve. Folks say that microtransactions for skins and costumes are fine because they're just cosmetic, but Borderlands 3 demonstrates what bullshit that excuse is. People claim cosmetic microtransactions are fine because they don't affect gameplay, but they do. The effect cosmetic rewards have on Borderlands 3 and one's enjoyment of it is tangible. No, it doesn't make you better at the game, but that's only one way we judge gameplay, and acting like it's the only metric is being willfully blinkered. Unlocking cosmetics in Borderlands 3 always feels special. It feels like a unique treat. That is gameplay being affected, because that positive experience inherently impacts how I feel while playing the game. In short, it feels good to unlock a cosmetic reward by playing it, which is how it felt in many games before cosmetics were portioned off and placed squarely behind a paywall. Nowadays, cosmetics are used not to give players a positive feeling, but to taunt and tease them from behind said paywall. This is important to note. It's important to contrast the positive feeling one gets from Borderlands 3's expansive and varied loophole against the average Ubisoft or Activision game. Other games have deliberately elected to take a genuinely positive experience out of their game in order to sell it back to you for quick cash. Mainstream game studios decided to make their games inherently less special, less rewarding, less fun. They took out the concept of finding rewards for yourself, of being surprised and delighted by a random drop or cool unlock. Now you just buy the shit you want outright in a grubby little transaction. No actual reward, just another purchase in a game you already purchased. No cool surprise for the player, unless that surprise is squirreled away inside a fucking loot box. Where Borderlands 3 constantly showers the player with rewards both mechanically and cosmetically, most games in the mainstream space now reserve their best items for their premium storefronts. Borderlands 3 exposes how downright withholding modern AAA video games have become. Just look at how soulless and tacky Ubisoft's Ghost Recon Breakpoint is. Barely any aspect of the game hasn't been monetized. Weapon upgrades, in-game cash, vehicles, crafting materials, and a massive range of cosmetic items have all been price tagged and sold to the player at a premium in a boring slog of a game that sells time savers to make the interminable grind more bearable. It was even selling skill points, outright skill points, to just buy your character's progression, until the backlash forced Ubisoft to do a U-turn on that one element. Christ, Ghost Recon Breakpoint is shit. I never once felt the need for time savers in Borderlands 3 because the experience of playing and shooting and getting rewards was compelling enough that it didn't feel like a grind. And call me old-fashioned, but isn't that how games are supposed to fucking feel? They're not meant to feel like a grind, like a goddamn chore. This is the difference between a game designed to sell microtransactions and a game designed to just sell a good, honest, fun experience. One's a job, one's fun, and I'd rather pay for fun than to do a job. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is fucking shit. Anyway, I didn't want to focus on shit games this week. We're going to talk about good games, games that do good, so here we go again. Another game that's made waves recently for its cosmetically rewarding nature is Code Vein, an anime-flavoured Souls-like from Namco Bandai. Not being a looter-shooter, or any kind of loot-based game really, one doesn't actually find cosmetic rewards while playing the game. Instead, players are given an absolutely incredible character creator up front, which allows them to make the anime bishonen or waifu of their dreams, and boy oh boy, did I make me a very pretty boy with some pretty makeup and tight pants. Very tight pants. And I made his clothes all pink and purple from a colour palette that has more range than Mariah Carey. The sheer depth of creativity one can indulge in when making a character for Code Vein mirrors the scope of a character creation system in another Namco property, Soul Calibur. While you can't get quite as wacky as you can in that game, Code Vein nonetheless gives you an overwhelming amount of flexibility. You can take accessories and put them anywhere on your body, choose from all manner of gloves, glasses, cat ears, headphones. I wasted over an hour in the character creation because there was just so much to tinker around with, and I wanted my beautiful boy to look just right. Carefully applying my lipstick, cycling through hair options with giddy indecision, turning up the dial on the flamboyant coloration to find the right amount of eye-searing gaudiness. But this was all a mere hors d'oeuvre, mere prologue, when I found the goddamn hat. And if there's one thing that this video should make abundantly clear, it's that I am a bugger for a hat. I was blown away when I realised I could put a big fuck-off Carmen Sandiego hat on my character's head. A big old hat with shades of Alucard, like something you'd find in Bloodborne, but massive and customisable and gloriously absurd. Once I found the big hat, it was over. All other headwear was null and void for me. And you want to know what's sad? You want to know what's pathetic? I was shocked and grateful for it. Thankful that the game allowed my character to wear such an audacious hat without charging me money for it. Me, grateful for a fucking hat. I mean, hats are some of the easiest microtransaction fodder out there. It's relatively simple and unobtrusive for a developer to stick a hat on a character's head, and hats are always rather eye-catching, so they're tempting properties. Hats were hugely popular as random drops in Team Fortress 2, and the game industry realised pretty soon after that, hey, you can make money selling these things. If you want more than a shitty little helmet in the Division 2, you are expected to engage with its fully stocked premium store. But here I was, gazing upon the majesty and splendour of my massive fucking anime hat, and my appreciation was off the bloody charts. Yet again, there was a tangible impact on gameplay here. No, it didn't make my character faster or stronger. I didn't deal more damage, my health bar wasn't expanded. My massive pink hat didn't make me a better player, Lord knows it didn't, but it made me a more enthusiastic player, a more contented player, a more satisfied player, because I'd made my character, in my colour scheme, wearing my idea of tastefully tasteless headwear. I felt intrinsically more invested in the game because I was able to invest my time into crafting a sublimely splendiferous pretty boy whose vibrant colours and nonsense hat would leave a mark, a deep, scarring mark, on any co-op players I happened to encounter. Throughout my time with Code Vein, I would constantly stop to admire my extravagant work, made even better by the fact you can return to a home base area and further tweak your design at literally any time. Code Vein happens to be a very enjoyable game on top of that, though it's certainly not got a super wide appeal and it's something of an acquired taste. It's a complete experience without aggressive or predatory monetization, giving players outright tools to visually alter their appearance on a whim, while providing a surprisingly deep and complex approach to Souls-like combat. It has its issues. It relies on cheap tricks like ambushes and ridiculous enemy tracking and pitfalls a bit too much, and its cutscenes can be irritatingly pointless, but it's a game that, like Borderlands 3, offers a comprehensive amount of content and somehow looks generous just for being a full product sold at full price. And it looks generous because we're being trained, steadily, to believe that it's acceptable for games to not be that, to not be feature complete, to not offer the full suite of available content yet still ask for the same amount of money. I made a point a long time ago and it's worth repeating. It's not like us to repeat points on the Jimquisition, but here's a point worth repeating. If cosmetics didn't matter, fashion souls wouldn't be a thing. People wouldn't flock to the internet, flock to online communities to show off how they've used armor pieces and gear pieces in Dark Souls to make fashion statements. People wouldn't parade around in Dark Souls' own online modes showing off.
There are people that will do fashion sold processions in-game. They will enter someone else's game wearing whatever fancy clothes and armor pieces they found and just parade about the place. And that's fun, and that is gameplay. That is a special form of gameplay, is making a character you love the look of and sharing that look elsewhere. How is that not gameplay? How does that not affect gameplay, the way you play and enjoy a game? It's important. Cosmetics are important. Video game publishers know they're important, know they can slap a monetary value on it, and therefore take all that fun out, make an inherently worse game, and sell you back what used to be in these games as standards. Cosmetics matter. They matter. See, they matter. The goggles on this are making clacky noises. I have to fix that.
Meanwhile, and I'm going to take a diversion from the cosmetic here, you can take a look at the recent output of publisher Focus Home Interactive. Focus's library these past few years has been doing a tremendous job of keeping the idea of the mid-tier game alive. Games that don't boast the massive budget of a major AAA game, but aren't small indie experiences either. Last generation and generations before were stuffed full of these mid-tier experiences, offering all sorts of curious ideas and particular, sometimes niche adventures. Most mainstream publishers, having adopted an all-or-nothing approach where they want every game they release to make all of the money in the world rather than just some money, have starved their audiences of mid-tier level games. But Focus Home Interactive's roster of inventive studios has filled that hole with enthusiastic thrusting. While BioWare was wasting its and everyone else's time with the live service garbage of Anthem, Don't Nod Entertainment and Spiders were giving us two rock-solid BioWare-flavoured RPGs in Vampire and Greedfall. Games with creative premises and all the weird storytelling, leveling up and hitting stuff that you could hope for. Do you want an exquisite story-driven stealth action game with fantastic character development and an incredible foreboding atmosphere? I give you A Plague Tale: Innocence, one of the best examples of such a game I've ever frigging played. One of the best games I've ever played. Period. How about Call of Cthulhu? It's not brilliant, but it's a fun and moody little game about investigation. It's a solid 7 out of 10, making it as good as Breath of the Wild. Focus even has its own Souls-like series in The Surge, a sci-fi take on the subgenre, and The Surge 2 is fucking excellent. I didn't even care that much for the first one, but the sequel is, in my opinion, utterly amazing. Even when most of the textures don't load in the fucking thing, it's still incredible. The developers making Focus's games are so damn creative, and they offer complete games that last hours and hours and hours. They're not as pretty looking as mainstream games, they don't boast massive budgets, and they are often a touch on the janky or buggy side. And yet they still feel more finished than most big budget games, offering a robust wealth of content and often at a cheaper price than some of the underbaked, overly monetized live service crap from an arrogantly self-styled AAA publisher. The existence of Borderlands 3, Code Vein, and Focus Home Interactive's library should be a fucking embarrassment for the mainstream industry. Anyone who's worked on a grinding, unrewarding, unfulfilling sliver of shallow trash from EA, Activision, or Ubisoft should look at these games and feel downright humiliated that they can't produce something so gratifying and worthwhile without first charging even more money for a shallow facsimile of satisfaction. There are games proving that it's viable and possible to make games that simply sell themselves and provide exhilarating and encouraging gameplay in exchange for that one-time purchase. They show how restricted, stripped down, and undermining modern games have become. And as game publishers work overtime to scrub our memories of these sorts of productions, it's worth remembering they're still out there. Games used to feel like Borderlands 3, Code Vein, like Vampire, all the time. It's how they're supposed to feel, and that is why these games I've talked about today put the entire AAA industry to fucking shame.
Now, I would like this video to be a lot more positive than it is, but unfortunately, there are caveats attached to some of the games we talked about. Borderlands 3, of course, I don't think we need to go too far into it. Gearbox Software's history, the history of its CEO, Randy Pitchford, are a matter of public record. This show has talked about the behaviour of Randy Pitchford and the publisher 2K Games many, many times before, but it is out there, you know. Randy has been credibly accused of physically assaulting an employee in a hotel lobby. He's an arsehole on Twitter, and he's a liar. And 2K Games is basically loves to swing its legal dick around, bullies people. He's incredibly greedy, has turned NBA 2K as a series into little more than a glorified free-to-play mobile game, except it charges a full premium game price tag. So that's a bit of a sad thing. And then there's Focus Home Interactive. I would have liked to have done an entire video praising Focus to high heaven, but there's a reason why I talked specifically about its developers more than it as a publisher, because it as a publisher has been, well, a bit of an arsehole of late. Frogwares, the studio known most famously for the weird, janky, to be honest, Sherlock Holmes games, and the wonderfully awful, amusingly, entertainingly shite The Sinking City, basically had any of their games that Focus published removed from storefronts, and Focus will not give them the rights to sell the game, even though Frogwares owns the IP to their games. Focus doesn't. The distribution agreement has ended, but Focus said it's got some new policy in place now where it won't allow developers to sell games they literally own. I have a video on this on the channel elsewhere, do check it out, although I do erroneously say that Focus published The Sinking City. It did not. That was another publisher whose name I've now completely forgotten. So this is useless information. But anyway, do sort that out, Focus, because I've said many times before, I love your output. I love what your studios are making. I think they are important games in an industry so infested, so ruined by a lot of modern development concessions that have been made in the name of monetization. I'm just incredibly disappointed that you're doing one of your studios dirty like this, or at least one of the studios you work with, that you treat them like that, because without your studios, without the likes of Frogwares, the likes of Spiders, Cyanide, Don't Nod, you'd be nothing. Ultimately, you'd be nothing. So, sort it out, yeah? Don't keep disappointing us. And if you find some time in your busy schedule, Focus, you can join the rest of the nation and thank God for me.